These are concentrating on looking at the work of practicing architects. This is Javier Moroto, who's come to visit us this fall. He's from Madrid. He's a professor at the Polytechnic and a distinguished architect in practice with Moroto. They have won numerous prizes in Madrid and in Europe and have numerous publications. I think we'll see probably work that was just finished for which he got the equivalent of the AIA in Spain medal last week. We're very lucky to have Javier here with us. It has a lot to do with the world situation, which for architects you need to be always aware that there are what we do is difficult, but it's also very expensive. And when the economies shift, then the architects need to shift. So Javier was here 10 years ago teaching at Rhode. We were very privileged to have him then, and we hope he comes and teaches again here. And I would like just to welcome Javier back and to ask you to listen carefully, but to enjoy this lecture.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much to all of you for coming to this lecture. It's terrific. Really, it's my first feeling. I mean, coming here again, as Peter has told you, I was 11 years ago, so it was it's an amazing feeling right now. What I feel is great being here. This is a wonderful school, and you are. Yeah. And you are the strength of the school and of this university. So I am very pleased to meet you all here and try to speak and exchange ideas. I don't know if I'm heard. Yes.
Can you hear me?
My ideas.
Javier, you have to speak into the mic.
Yeah. My ideas with you. The title of this lecture, which as you can read, is Living Better Than Inhabiting. It depicts a feeling that I personally have about architecture. And I don't know if it is coming along with this shift Peter has talked to you in the way that economic terms changes the way we can architects we can approach our work. But it's the idea that during so many large periods of my professional career, I've been dealing with the idea that architecture should provide a shelter, a content for habits. Let me explain you what is a habit. I picked up this drawing by Le Corbusier, which is not very well known. It is in, I've found it on the records, the archives of Harvard University. And it's a very amazing drawing because it is showing us an old piece of furniture, which for me depicts very well the way our items, our devices, our furniture can fit very well with our necessities, which would be, or would constitute a habit. Indeed, this word, habit, its etymological sense probably comes from the verb, Latin verb, habere, just to have. So, habitar, habit, inhabit, inhabiting, is the same thing that to own. So, I own things. I own, you all own items and devices that make your life easier and fit very well with the way you perform into your particular individual and collective lives. This was my thought. During so many years I've been developing architectural projects in this movie. But right now, I don't know, a year or 2 years ago, it has happened something to me that has pushed me into this image, which is a little bit tricky. This is a performance, an art performance by Beasley and Weiss. I don't know if you know them. They are Swiss artists, and they are putting all these items in a different way. I would say that in a creative and artistic way. So they come to a position, a status of equilibrium, which would be, laid by the ingenious and smart and brave way of thinking of the persons that have made this. So this is life. Life is not only to own things, but to use them in a very social, creative, innovative way that would allow us to improve as community and as human beings. So architecture, to myself right now, would be more linked with this idea of making an effort to cope different things, even though they would come from different sources, and even though they would be unfitable at the very first step. So architecture would let us provide a better world through all these feelings, new feelings. Well, as you know, I come from Spain, which is in the global earth, and this fantastic image, which is something that we can imagine because we have not been in the space. I haven't been never out of the earth. So I haven't had the chance of looking at this in this way. But right now, the technology of our satellites, and they give us an outside of what is our environment. And this is a very interesting thing because we haven't lived it in this way, we haven't seen it, but we know that this is existing in this way. So you have different layers in the space that allow life. And then you can put a step forward and go into this orthographic photograph, which depicts the territory as a cumulative of different and gathering of different things. You have mountains here, you can figure out how they are placed on the territory. You have rivers, you have water, you have green, and you have also very, very dry areas. So this is my country. This is Peninsula Iberica. It's joined, as you know, with Portugal. I like this picture because it depicts very well the idea of an island. It's a peninsula. We are very close, as you see, to the north coast of Africa, and just separated by this very, very short frame of water. This is called Stretcher of Gibraltar. And then we have the mountains on the north, which are the Pyrenees, that are our natural border with France. And all the territory you are seeing here is surrounded by water. And then if you go a step forward and you focus more and more in the photograph, you can see a city here. This is my city, this is Madrid. And I like this picture, well, because I am able to recognize probably things that you are not familiarized with it. And I could explain many things out of this picture, but I am not going to do it right now. Just I'm going to tell you something that we have a very small river that is now very well developed by with different projects, by different approaches to make it valuable for the city. And at the same time, we have the main street. This is the river. This is the river. Here we have mountains. And then we have a street here, as you see in the middle, which is the main street. It's called Castellana. Castellana has a wonderful name. It's called From Castilla. From Castilla is from the land of castles. And this Castellana runs from north to south like a river. So I always thought that this street, this broad street, is like a river. A river which depicts very well the life of the city. So, just to give you some hints about my work during this lunch lecture. I mean, this is it's an old project. It's before 2000. It's a very small building, which is using this idea of different scales on it. And it depicts all this effort in a very clear way. For instance, if you can count the stories of the neighborhoods or the buildings are neighboring it, you can count 6. And then you have 3, the building here is a 3-story building, which is not real. I mean, inside the building you have 6 as well. But what is interesting is that the scale of the street is changing out of this effort of putting a different scale, a different size of the things, just in the I've been drawing during a lot of time different projects made by many different architects, just trying to understand how architecture can be placed on the site, how you can find the site, how can you materialize it, how can you shape it. And these 3 things are very important. In this case, this is some drawings I made some years ago, just trying to understand the visual fields, shapes, different L shapes and U shapes that were used by architect Alvaro Siza. And in different buildings, without taking into account if they were used for small or big buildings. Just trying to put all these joints together, trying to understand how the architecture would allow us to construct and to build perspectives or spaces, even open spaces. The U space is a very classical space that is very well used by this architect, this marvelous architect, Alvaro Siza. The L shape and the U shape is are very interesting ways of putting a space that is half inner space and half is an out space. So these exercises that are not regular work for an architect because you are not projecting a building, but you are trying to understand how others architects have been working on architecture. This is a very important work. I've been developing all these drawings to a bunch of years, and they have been a great asset always for me, just trying to give me a better understanding of architecture. So here there is in a row 3 projects which are different scale. This is not a very big piece. It's a very simple building. It's a nice room. It's built up very close to Madrid in nowhere. It's a city, it's a place, you have some freeways there, and it's not qualified by the site. So what I was trying here is to understand that the building would have to reflect, would have to appear as a very simple piece, not a very complex shaded form. And then with this drawing which allows to construct the roof as a wall and then round the edges and cover all the building with a white stained metal sheet. It could allow us to understand like a refrigerator that were laying down on the soil, on the ground, and was a little bit like abandoned. And you could see this big piece of architecture, like from the freeway, the highway, when you were driving. So the sense of having this, like, I use this idea of the refrigerator because it's very nice that they are white, because white reminds you the idea of ice. It's beautiful to cool. And then you have this very close, meaningful approach between the object and the content, and the function as well. Well, the effort here is just, to provide this space in a very simple way and to let it be seen from outside, which is an amazing thing, because as you are approaching the building, you move forward the building to this plane, on this plane, and then you can see through this very narrow block, which is glazed, you can see the white surface of the ice. Well, second building is a very old one. It's a huge building for Japan, as you see there, the words Kansai-kan. It's a central library, and we were working here in this project with Bayard engineers. The first time we met Cecil Balmont, which was not so well known by that moment. I think he hadn't worked with Renkujas at that time, and even with Toyo Ito, then he became very, very famous after that. But we were working with him doing this project. And we developed an idea for, yeah, well, this is last time, so it's nice to see this. So it's a good shot. Well, we were just trying to figure out how you can join a hard piece like the tuna and the wasabi, and then a flexible layer, like the rice and the, I don't know, how do you say that in English? Alga.
Nori.
Seaweed. Yes.
And this become like a total and compact form, even though you are mixing two different concepts, rigid and compact and dense and flexible, which would allow to make this very strong piece something you can beat. You can beat without losing your teeth. Is the idea. Well, this was very interesting because we were, as I told you, we were trying to understand how an earthquake works. How can damage it be? So you have a movement, a vertical movement, like this, vertical strength, which the building has to suffer. The necessity you have is to stack materials in a way they can be compressed, compression. No? But if they are moving in this way, which is the main effort in an earthquake, you have an horizontal force that the building has to bear. You have to provide flexible. Then it's very interesting to understand that all the strength of the hard part, which would be in this case the libraries, the books and the stacks, and all the core of the building, can be diminished by the idea of flexible movement of the skin, outer skin. What is interesting of this is that the contact of this part of these two parts of the building were springs, and also with the foundation. So the building can move in this way or in this way, anyway, horizontal and also vertical. So it was a very, very interesting idea, and we developed this with Bayard. Well, these are some of the drawings we were using about how the program could be associated more with the rigid or with the flexible part, and how, with the very, very simple schemes, how we could provide all the technical requirements. This is another one. This, well, I have to say that all these projects have been most part of them have been the result of competitions, international competitions, as you have seen, and some of them, I mean, many of them, they have obtained prizes through all these competitions during the last 15 years. So this is a very important thing. The career you all can make with architecture is not going to become out of one building, but it's going to be a path that you have to walk. So it's very important to understand that you have to make efforts that could provide you to achieve experience to every step. And then your life as architects is going to be a collection of steps. Some of them will be more valuable, will be more worth, but all of the steps you have done are very important for understanding the way you have been related to architecture. So that's why I'm showing some of these projects that for me are old, but are interesting. I've learned many things out of them. So this was a huge building in Geneva, in Switzerland, for this WIPO, this World International Property Organization. It's a very healthy society, private society. And they wanted to build a huge office building with a headquarters. They had this previous one, which was built, and they wanted an extension of the building. And well, the thing is that the insertion of this extension of the building was breaking a very nice system of garden city, which is, as you can see, well, it's like here. You have this narrow field with little houses and trees and streets and paths, and then the side was breaking, making a border, making a line in this way. So what and I was trying to, I've chosen this image to show you, is to understand how the building can concentrate, can contain density, and at the same time voice that could provide this exchange between both sides of the garden city here. You can see through this ideogram, the one that you can see above, these two ideas having like, you know, the sponges and porosity and flexible field of the sky with the clouds, and then to have the density of the city inside of it. Both things are a little bit like not fitting well, but how you could manage, you can enlarge certain systems like this to provide public facilities with a huge amount of space that would put you a little bit like in a bridge, no? In the sense of bringing connection through the gap. And then a very, you know, very steady collection of blocks with high density that would be broken with different paths, but these are hand drawings, more or less. So yesterday we were talking about the way of performing these drawings. For me, is like this is like a way of drawing of the other century. But it's nice, I mean, to see them right now. No, we were cutting all the figures, no, out of magazines, and then just being on the drawings that we were using our pencils and the colors, the watercolors. So it's very nice to see them right now. They're a little bit naive, a little bit, but they're nice. Well, my next point. Well, I have to hurry a little bit.
You do.
Well, it's wildwood, raw materials, the spaces in between ecologies. I think this is a very important point through all this work of research during these years. Let me explain you through this image. Ecologies. What is an ecology? Ecology is a sustainable way of construction. That's it. How can you produce ecology? You can. You have to save energy. You have to improve the natural conditions of the site. I'm going to spend this part of this project. And you have to be modest. Try to learn and to understand the site possibilities and the site conditions. This is very important. You have to be modest. You have to hear what is coming out of the site. Well, this is we won this competition, and unfortunately we haven't built this way because the university was very, very afraid of what we were proposing. So you are going to see right now what happened. The normal way of constructing a building, you can go around any way, is that you destroy a little bit the site. I mean, you make an explanation, you flat the land, and then you make the grounding and the basement, and then you construct whatever. I mean, a collection of infrastructure that is colonizing the site. Well, but you never take into account that on that soil and under the soil there are happening so many things. I mean, there are soft things. There's water. Sometimes there's water. When you build architecture, you damage, in a certain sense, we can say that. You make an injury to that conditions, to that natural conditions of the site, even though the site is an urban site. I mean, that happens. So what we try here is to improve the natural conditions of the site. Our building was this one. These buildings are constructed in the way I have explained to you, just injuring the site, just saying architecture is here and it's going to be here for a long time. And we were trying to understand what is the meaning of the site, just trying to understand the streams of water and the trees that were existing by the time we were projecting this. So trying to understand how we can improve these conditions and make architecture out of this. So this is dealing with ecology. So the idea is to understand that we could not flap the place, just avoiding all the underneath conditions we had there, and trying to understand that the trees wouldn't cut it. No? We didn't want to cut any tree there, so we wanted to improve them, to improve the number of trees. So we became to this idea of reading under the tree shadow. So for doing this, for preserving the trees, we have to project and build a core for each tree. So we took measures of all of the streets, the trees field, and then we gave form to, all of these little cores that are, digging out material to give air and to allow all this presence of the trees. And at the same time, we proposed a buffer zone, a very wide buffer zone, which would be included inside the library as a threshold between the external part, the street, and the inner part of the building. This is interesting because it's not only a decorative way of performing this. You would be allowed, as user of the library and people outside, to use that to work. I mean, you have natural ground treated, but you would have the possibility of switch your computer as well. So this is like a very funny mix of different ecologies. I mean, natural and artificial. So these are inner parts of the building, and this is the buffer zone areas. And this is an image I like. I mean, it's very poppy, very popular image, but I like it because it has the strength of showing how you can use space within its natural conditions without, the necessity of making a floor, with an artificial slab. So the provost of the university became very worried about using all that huge amount of money in this way. So he told us, I'm thinking about this, I have to count on my team, we have to discuss this with the community, and we will phone you. So we are still waiting for that phone call. And every day when I get up, I'm thinking that I'm going to receive that call. So, I am on the expectation of receiving that call. Well, the case is that by this moment, nobody has phone. So let's see what's happening in the next years. But this idea was partially developed through this building. We had the chance of, we won this competition for building market. So it was very, very interesting because we could work with some of the things we have learned out of the library and put it in probably in a modest scale, but in a very nice way. I mean, for us, just trying to understand how we could use the building as partially open, partially closed, and how can a very emotional and cultural activity like the market, the market is providing, can be used for the community. So the idea is to make a plaza. Plaza is a square. I like the name plaza because in Italy and Spain we use this word plaza, piazza, for going to buy things. I mean, when you, I was hearing the voice of my mother when I was a child. She said, I'm going to make La Plaza. Voy a hacer La Plaza. I'm going to make La Plaza. She was meaning I'm going to buy the market. So this is beautiful, no? The market is a piazza. And we try to then put a strength on the roof, but diminish the strength of the enclosure opening through all these curtains of locks, wood locks, that, as you see here, these are pieces of logs that are thrown away because they are not used in the sense that they are very little, so they cannot be cut into, different sort of words. And well, they are thrown away. Out of the factory. So we thought that this piece, that is an unfortunate piece. It's not used. It cannot be manufactured. So we could give them this piece an indulge, way through our effort of building something with it. And the power of this piece is that it is not manufactured, you can imagine, it's absolutely irregular. It's not fitting well. So it gives this sense of mobility and lackness of transformation through manufacture, which is very interesting because you are using the material as a mineral, as a raw thing. A very close approach to nature is using the materials as if they were no rocks, but minerals. So just using two different sections, we could allow to build it in the same way, very same steady way, through all this, the collection of different nails that would allow different lights from north and south crossing the space and giving the sense of movement, which is very interesting as well. When you enter a building, you cannot feel that the building is dead, in a sense that it's always the same, that is static. You have to achieve the dynamic that is in it. One important thing is that both buildings don't need air conditioning. So at the very first step, they didn't trust us, even the engineers that were working on it. So they thought it was not going to work because you needed particular conditions for storing all that fish or meat or whatever. And well, we were very, very sure about what we were. At the end, the building was approved and is working without any air conditioning waste. So it's very interesting, just the circulation of air and the different conditions in the environment allow this. I like these pictures because we could be somewhere, but in a different mood than a building. I like this. It's a little bit rough, but I like I like the connection with the materiality of things, no? And I like also this world of shadows and lights, which allows the sense of light and life as well. This is an inner street. This is a buffer zone, like in the library, which is used by many people that don't want to go to the market. But this is a very sheltered space and very comfortable space. This is our orange trees, now are quite big, and it's a very nice place to be.
Is Is there glazing there, or is it just open to the air?
It's open to the air, but you have two different architectures. You have the shelter one, which is open to the air, and then you have a glazing fence just 3 meters high, and then some screens of nylon can be unfolded by different devices that are connected with the conditions of temperature and humidity. So the building is self-sufficient in the sense that it's changing the enclosure just to shift to the conditions that are in the city. These are earthscapes, which is a word that is invention. Is mixing Ur. As you know, Ur is the oldest city we have. I mean, Ur is this the outsourced for urbanism. No? Ur comes from this city, Ur, and scale is associated with landscape. So if we mix scale with Ur, we have this mixture, something that is in part of this idea of infrastructure that is needed to be in the city, but at the same time is escaping from that idea. Well, this is a project for Seoul, Korea. I don't know if there is somebody here from Seoul.
Yes.
I think it's built right now. We won one of the first prizes. It was quite a big discussion on this. But at the end, we hadn't the chance of dealing with this project. It was hired Januel. They decided to get a vote of the results of the competition, so they hired Januel. And I don't know what's the final bidder. Who is well, the idea is to transform an artificial island, which was laid out here on the rear. It was used as an infrastructure for storage, and then transform it into a sort of molded, not flat, but molded and landscape, which was in part covered with all these cultural uses. The interesting thing here is that architecture is soft. So the auditoriums and the theaters, they change the shape. They are pneumatic architecture, and they can be insulated with more or less air, just to have a different volume and a different form. It depends on the activity, the people attending, and the conditions, even the weather conditions. So it's I think it's a good approach to this sense that architecture doesn't have to perform as a very steady agent in all the play of different things that are going on, the construction of the place, urban space. Well, this is a project we are developing right now. It's a very difficult project. It has a lot of difficulties to be developed. We have been working almost, I've written there 2007, but it's not true. We've been working here for 10 years. And I don't know if we are going to arrive to a good point for, it's so complex. We are talking about 200,000 square meters of construction, of cultural facilities. There are places in a very spoiled place, which was developed as a mine, which digging minerals and materials out of it. And it's in a very nice area, because this is the Rio, and here you have the Cantabria scene. This is in the Rhode state. And architecture here is disappearing a little bit, just trying to to construct the volume of air that was extracted through the mineral. Yeah. So a little bit complex to understand it, but it won't be, architecture won't be appreciated as a building, but as a part of the landscape and as a continuity of the mountain. Just to figure out what is the meaning of this is that we have cliffs here of 40 meters. It is not very, I mean, it's
double the height of this building.
Yeah, it's quite big. And it's a huge extension of, well, this was built, and I'm going to run, Peter, really fast, okay? Just to arrive to a very nice slide I have at the end of the lecture. This is my point. All this effort is to arrive to that point, okay? So this is a very simple project that was constructed some years ago. What we try to make here in effort is you have a like a flat sheet, and then you press the sheet, it is deformed. No? This is a very interesting thing, because if you deform it, you fold this plane and this, you get the chance of having air inside. So you will have to mix. This is a common project in Europe. They, I mean, cities are making these parking lots that are digged underneath, and then they cover it with a garden, which is something impossible, absolutely impossible, because the heat that is produced by cars are damaging the possibilities of the trees for growing. I mean, the roots become, with the temperature that can, I mean, they don't have the natural conditions in the temperature for growing up. So what we did is to open this lifting the ground, just to allow the air to pass through. So, as you know, the CO2 of the cars is heavier than the air. So the CO2 would become to the floor, and they would be removed out of the parking lot with mechanical devices. But the chance of removing the heat, the air, under the slab, the floor, is cooling all this concrete slab, and it allows the trees to grow up. So it's very, I mean, it's a nice effort, because it's giving the chance of, well, these trees are all pictures that are quite big, and it's very nice. Right? It's very nice. Yeah, yeah. This is called, the tree is jacaranda. I don't know the name in English. It has a purple leaf. It's beautiful. It's very Mediterranean. So I don't know if you have it here. Well, I'm going to pass this. I don't want it. I'm going to use this to say something. Because I cannot help passing without saying it. This. Institutions, objects, system, institutions. This is a very important thing. An institution is not only is not a type of architecture that can be used for containing some uses. I mean, official uses. It's also a symbolic piece, because, as you know, we express as society, as community, through our institutions. So it's very important the way institutions and building the institutions are performing and are giving us a hint of how we can use them. So it's very important. The most amazing thing is to project an institution. It's an amazing thing, because it's a collective form. It's a cultural form. It's an ecological form. And it expresses all the things we expect out of our past, our traditions, but also of our future. They are very important. So this is this is a competition we won with 5 other teams, and we became passed through the second step. That was won by Taha Habib, and we won the second prize. Our building was much modest than hers, but it has a nice idea about this the institution. We wanted to build a bridge, a very long piece with ice. No, have the ice to let the water pass through, and then you can turn around the bridge and make an enclosure. But the idea is that this enclosure is opened by this ice. So it's a beautiful sense of leaving the inner part of the building, giving public meaning. So there were some trees there, and the trees related to this structure that is coming out of the branches, like a very sophisticated, tridimensional, but make out of pipes, like different moving of pipes. And it's conforming all this facade of the building. So this contact that is produced, that emerges out of the trees, is irradiating all these conditions to the building. Well, I'm just going to pass all this. This is a building we are just picturing you the ideas. Just 3 minutes now. This is a museum we are constructing right now. We are building. It was a very sad place. No? The prison is the saddest place you can imagine. I mean, we call it in Spanish a pain place. It's penal. So a place where you feel miserable. I mean, you cannot be well even if you are walking. I don't know if you have tried to walk nearby the wall of the prison. Is a very bad sense, just thinking of it. So when we were proposing and we won this competition, I think for this idea that is, you can see it here, is that the effort, symbolic effort of taking the air of the prison and putting the air outside is giving freedom to this space. So it's a very symbolic effort, but the museum won't be constructed in the prison, but out the prison, through these buildings that were pavilions, huh? That were like lamps out of the building. And the space of the pain, sad Spain, will be transformed into a freedom space, public space for the community. These are some of the images, and this is one of the pavilions. It's a huge building. So I won't go through this. Just show you some images. I'm going to pass this, and we are arriving to the final, entailing all the lecture with this final. But these are beautiful images, although they are not very good ones, because the quality is not very good, but they are fantastic. You know what is this? This is a shadow of the house, And the children have drawn in the shadow the house. They have made their own house. So we are taking a nap here in their house. It's beautiful. And the other image, this is a meteorite, a big meteorite, and they are very serious, but they are living in the meteorite. No, they are they have colonized the material. This is beautiful, and it expresses well this idea of the emotion of projecting housing. No? It's a beautiful thing. It's an amazing thing. It's a celebration of life, always a celebration of life to build a house. Well, 3 projects. I'm going to go very, very fast through them. The first one is an infill in the center of Madrid, a very dense area with lots of immigrants. And the effort of this project was to make a close relationship through a path between the street, which is here, and a tree that was here in Energo. So trying to use the architecture as a device could allow us to reach this tree. And the nice thing of this, that it was so narrow that the stair was in the middle of it. So the stair is part of this plate. And the stair becomes a public item for the citizens, which will be able to pass through it and to go to the top part of the building. The other thing is that in the inner court, or very, very small courts, there is not enough light. So we try to construct a lamp inside that will reflect the natural light through this system of glaze and insulated silver aluminum, which would reflect the light into the tree space. You see how narrow and small it is. And this is the external facade, which is made of stone. They're very large pieces of stones. They are 3 meters high and 6 meters thick. One piece is not concrete or whatever, it's stone. And it's the maximum length this stone would bear all the conditions not to be broken. It's a condition of equilibrium. It's a beautiful one, because if you diminish a little bit, just half centimeter more of this stone, then it can be broken. So this idea of cantilever to the street is in a position of equilibrium. This is the stair, and this is the court. This is another building we have finished, and just I'm going to stop into. This is a piece of aluminum, extruded aluminum. We have patented, and it's an interesting piece because it's like a. It's like it's something you can handle, very light. Reflects the light, the heat, and at the same time it breaks the sound noise of the trains, because this is constructed very close to the. So this wall, which is, I mean, it's a very, very low budget buildings. We had to make possible to live there. So this is an important detail, and the development of this piece has been very, very important for the succeed of the building. So here you have this building is layered with all this. You can appreciate here all this. I don't know how do you say in English, pieces. And then there is another situation, that is this movement of the windows. You can think that it's decorative. It is not. I mean, the regulation of fire wouldn't allow us to make so much windows in this way. Yes, we have to cover circles of breaking the continuity of the flames. So they are drawn out of these patterns, this geometry of protecting the building of the extension of the fire. Here you can see all this idea of logs that are constructed in the basement. This is the picture you have seen. And, these are the trains, bus trains. This is public housing. Public housing is for people that don't have income. So, the site is very, very nice, but it had very, very difficult things to be solved for building here housing. So the other important thing is we were discussing this the other day, the ground and the ground is very important because it's the public space. We all share the ground, so it's very important the way you use it. This is the final one that will allow us to arrive to this final slide that I like so much. This is a building that is a very, very small building that is divided into four because we wanted that all the dwellings in this housing had the possibility of external air. Now, there are no inner parts in the building. So the massive corner is transformed into a sort of rupture shape, broken shape, which allows the extension of the facade and the contact with the street. I like to think that it's also, how do you say, piano keys, no? It has this idea of moving your fingers through it, and even your eyes. And in the inner part, which is very, very small, the idea is to construct space with a certain sense of joyful space, like movement, no? The idea of movement and life. So, this was the old court. It was very, very small, and this existing building was cut here with the wall. And then we opened this space with our building just to broad all this courtyard and bring the air in. Handrail is a play of moving all these bars in order to make this kinetic movement of the perception. Well, this is the final one. Well, probably these four buildings that I have shown you at the very last moment in a very bad way because we've done so quickly, are like these four guys right here. You know, they are alive. They have arrived here with their items, with their habits, with their clothes. Some of them have taken off the jackets and the shirts, and they are sharing all this marvelous food and a good bottle of wine. They have had food here. They have made a picnic. They have, I guess, that this is a holiday day, a sunny day, and they have come with this canoe, this little boat, and they are, celebrating life. They are enjoying the conversation. They are looking at the river, and they have all these canes here. Or they are fishing, just waiting for a fish to bite. Thank you very much.